Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to talk about what is Headless Umbraco Forms, how it can be implemented in an application. Basically, Headless Umbraco Form is something that can be integrated into any application. It is not just limited to Umbraco. If the front end is React or Next.js or any other language, we can integrate forms in that application using Headless scenario. So let's start with live demo. So let me run my project. So here you can see a forms tab. So clicking on it, here where we need to install the Umbraco form first. So let me click this, and then I need to copy this command and just pasting it to the console. So now I have installed Umbraco forms. Then I need to enable the API configuration key. So Umbraco forms provide API for rendering the Umbraco forms and submission of Umbraco forms. So by default it will be disabled. So we need to enable manually. So let's start with live demo. So let me run my project. So here you can see a forms tab. So clicking on it, here where we need to install the Umbraco form first. So let me click this, and then I need to copy this command and just pasting it to the console. So now I have installed Umbraco forms. Then I need to enable the API configuration key. So Umbraco forms provide API for rendering the Umbraco forms and submission of Umbraco forms. So by default it will be disabled. So we need to enable manually. So for the Umbraco session, we need to I've added this form, and inside options enable forms API. This configuration key I've set to true. So then need to restart this project. So now I have installed Umbraco form. We can create using by clicking on it, and I can see the API endpoints. Sagar.index.html. So when I set the configuration key to true, then we can visible there is a Umbraco form API. So clicking on it, and then you can see there is a two endpoint for one for get request and one for post. So this when I add the forms ID here, it's mandatory, and the content ID and culture code is optional parameter. So when I add the forms ID, I can see the form definition here. the whatever in the forms, the details, the information of the form will be displayed in a JSON format here. So here we can see various properties such as the form name, indicators, labels, styles, validation, settings, and field configuration, etc. So it's a structured set of instructions to display and handle the specified form in a headless Umbraco environment. So mm, and it's for post. It's for when I we can add forms ID here, and then it will be it's for the submission of the form. Then let me create the form. So I'm naming it contact us. I'm just removing this field. So just adding. I'm just adding first question as name, and so the name, and then choosing the answer type as short answer. It will be field type text. Then just submitting it and adding a next question. Phone number. Answer type I've selected short answer, and then field type I've selected the daily. Then making it as mandatory, and validate as number, and then submit it. Just adding country for another question. And I'm selecting drop down, adding first value as India, and the caption will be India. Then adding next value China, and the caption also China. And I'm adding a new value France, France as a caption. So then I'm just submitting it, and I'm adding one more field for image upload. So image, just here we can select the upload file upload, then predefined allow the specified files as PNG, JPG only. So and then submitting it. So I've created basic details with the question. So then let me go to the doc type. On here, on the I've created a doc type contact us. Let me create a group called forms, and form. So I'm adding a property contact form. So I'm picking form picker, and selecting the contact us form, submitting it. I'm just saving the doc type. Just go to contents. Here I'm creating a note under the home. Just contact us. I'm picking the contact us form here and just save and publish. And let me build the models. Let me generate the models again. So let's get back to Visual Studio. So here on the contact us page, I need to add a script that will be uh, provided in the documentation, Headless Umbraco Forms documentation. So let me copy paste the code. So just fix. So yeah, this script we can get from the Umbraco documentation, Headless Umbraco Forms documentation. So here, let me I'll explain this code again later. So let's see if it is rendered on the front end. Not visible. So okay, my form rendered on the page, and I need to just give a style, which I've already yeah, this style I've already done, and let me add the style to this. So it will be look uh, better. So here is my form. So let me explain submitting it. Anju, country, India, choosing file. Load. I'm submitting it. By default, message will be showing after the submission of the form and thank you message, and we can see the entries when we go to the forms. We can expand this for contact us form, then we can see there is one entry. So clicking on it, I can see the values I've given on the form. So it will be stored on the Umbraco backend. So let me explain the code. So here I've the this using directives user to inherit the namespaces which give access to these the classes and utilities used in this view. And this page doesn't use any layout, and this injects the anti-forgery service to obtain and store the anti-forgery token. So and this when posting the form, an anti-forgery token is generated and validated. This provides a protection against cross-site request forgery attacks. While posting the form, the header value generated can be provided where it will be validated server side before accepting the request. So yeah, I'll show you that later. So then this injects the settings for Google reCAPTCHA v2, and this injects the settings for Google reCAPTCHA v3. And here I've added a style for the form, and here just I've set the culture code here, and then this async function get and render form is used to fetch the Umbraco form from the Umbraco server, Umbraco back office, using this form ID and content ID. And if the request is success, then it will call the render form function. And it's take the form data obtained from the server dynamically and renders the form on the web page. It retrieves the HTML element with the ID form and to act as a wrapper form for the form, and calls the render post submit message and render validation summary functions to handle post submission and message and validation summaries. And then creates new HTML element setting its ID, and it iterates through the page, field sets, columns, and fields. And then to generate the corresponding HTML element for each field types, and then it's called the render field function. And uh, then the render button function will add the submit button to the form, and it appends dynamically created forms to the wrapper element. Then let me yeah then this render field function will this function takes the form element and field definition, dynamically renders the HTML input element for the given field type. It uses a switch statement, um, and it uses the switch statement to determine the field types, and it's called the specific functions. The get text field element, get text area element. So these functions to generate the corresponding HTML element for the field type. The generated field element is then append to the form. So and then actually, these functions work together to fetch form data from the server and dynamically render the form on the web page and generate HTML element for each form field based on the field type. The render field function plays a key role in this process by handling the specific rendering logic for each field type. So this get text field element, this function is responsible for creating and returning an HTML input element for a field of type short answer. So here the short answer. So then this function, uh, it's responsible for creating and returning HTML input element for field of type the long answer. And then this get drop down element. This function is to create a drop down from the element based on the provided field definition. It creates drop down field with label options based on the pre-values in the form definition, and an optional select prompt text. And then it creates a drop-down field with the label options based on the pre-values in the form definition. An optional select, uh, prompt text. Then the get data consent element. So this function is responsible for creating a form element to capture user consent, particularly for data related purposes. Actually, this function also creates a checkbox input for capturing user consent. Um, Along with a message explaining the purpose of the consent. It's commonly used in forms where users need to explicitly agree to some certain terms or data processing activities. So, and then this get file upload element um, function is to responsible for, uh, you know, creating it's responsible for creating a form element that allows users to upload files. And then actually this function also creates a file input field for users to upload files. It considers additional options such as accepted files types and whether the multiple files uploads are allowed based on the field dot file upload options property. So then the get reCAPTCHA to element. So this function is responsible for creating a reCAPTCHA v2 field. This involves adding the reCAPTCHA script and the corresponding development to the form. And this function creates a reCAPTCHA v2 field by adding the reCAPTCHA script and container div element to the form. So this specific setting for the reCAPTCHA field, such as theme, size, and site key, are obtained from the field dot settings object and external values. So um, let me explain the submit form. So this async function that handles the form submission, actually this async function. So and this actually here the prevent default will prevents the default to form submission, and here we extract the form ID from the form's ID attribute, and the validation summary element. Actually, the clear validation errors um, clears previous validation errors by providing validation summary element, and then um, the data object, it will store the uh, you know um, it will prepare the data object that will be sent in the post request. So and then the form data will create form data object from the form. So it iterates over the form using a for loop. Then here, regular form field. So for a regular form field, the key value pair are added to the, data dot values object, and in image upload or file upload. So the file name and base64 encoded file content are processed and added to the data.value object. So in the here is the post request to the form API. So uh, here it performs the post request to the Umbraco Forms API with the prepared data. So the request include the ID, the forms ID in the URL, and serialized data object, and on the request body. So these headers include you know the content type and the application JSON as and a token for authorization. So if the response status is 2 not 2, then it indicates a successful form submission. And if the response status is 4 2 then it indicates validation error. Validation errors are extracted from the response JSON, and the render validation error function um, is called to display them. So the response status is different and error message is logged to the console. So the function handle different scenarios based on the response status and provide appropriate feedback, such as redirecting and successful submission or rendering validation errors. So Uh, so let me add another. Uh, so let me add a reCAPTCHA to the form. So for that, just adding a question. I am not a robot, so I'm just clicking reCAPTCHA 2, and we can also use reCAPTCHA v3 for that, and then just submitting it. Then it's for render this field on the Umbraco form, we need to add here. So in this case, it's already here. So then in reCAPTCHA v2, we need to configure some other settings like a public key and private key. So my let me on the forms, under the forms, sorry, inside the forms, and I need to add field types. So let me paste it. So this for reCAPTCHA v2, and it's for v3, and this is my public key and it's my private key. So just starting. So let me check the issue. And conductors. Here, the reCAPTCHA v2 is also rendered. And if we want to, the documentation provides, actually here, actually this documentation provide for examples for, the basic field types such as the short answer, long answer, drop down, data consent, file upload, and reCAPTCHA. So for additional field types like single choice, multiple choice, date, we'll need to manually add the corresponding code to handle these specific, form elements. So if I want to add a single choice, so I need to manually add that. So let me take the code. I'm adding a new case for single choice, and under this function, I'm adding another function for get radio button element. So in this, actually, this function dynamically generates, a set of radio button based on the options provided in field dot revalues. It it creates the necessary HTML element for each radio button associated with them, with a common label, and returns the entire set wrapped in a containing div. So let me go back to the Umbraco back office and the forms. Let me add a field for, I'm adding question gender and choosing as a single choice answer type, then adding items values to male, and I'll add caption as male, also female, adding caption for female. So uh, making this field as mandatory, submitting it. So let us see if it is rendered on the front end. No, just let me check that. Radio button. So I think I forgot to save the new function. So it rendered here now. So if I want to add another, so just check if it is working or not. And show enter its country, select India, and let me choose its download. And I'm not a robot. Chimneys. Okay. So let me select the gender and submit the form. So we can check on the back office entries. Here, the new submitted, entry added on the back office. So these are the values. So let me add a, you know, uh, a new field, which is not included on the documentation. So let me add a multiple choice. So let's add hobbies. Hobbies. So let me select multiple choice. Okay, here it is. Let me add multiple choice, and I can give the values. Reading, the caption will be reading, adding it, and then let me add another value, music, caption also music. So then sports, codes. Then one more gaming, sorry, gaming, and okay. So let's submit it, and we can check if it is rendered or not. Is obviously it's not rendered on the front end because we are not configured that on the Visual Studio. So we need to add that. So for that we need to add a new case for multiple choice. So I'm adding a new case for multiple choice here. So just align. So, so let me add the function for that, and here it is. So get multiple choice element. So in this, this function dynamically generate a set of checkbox based on the options provided in the field dot, pre-values. It creates the necessary HTML element for each checkbox base, associated them with a common label, and returns the enter set drop name in a containing div. So now mm, saving it, just checking. Yes, it's here. So let me add another field. So I'm adding a date picker. So for that, uh, date of birth. So let me select the date picker for that, and I'm just submitting it and saving it. And on here, I need to add a new case for that. Just copying the code. So here it is. Then so for the function, I'm adding the function. For that, let me explain. So actually, this function, so this function dynamically generate a date input field with a associated label and help and a help text if it is available. The elements are structured with the container for styling purpose, and the function returns this container. So here we can see if it's rendered. So yes, here. So let me let me submit the form again and show test. So phone number will be the country I'm selecting as China, and then not it's not mandatory. So I'm selecting female, and reading and date of birth. So just pick a date, and let me submit it. So just okay. So I've submitted the form. So let me check on the entries. So here is the new entered, new submitted form details will be displayed here. So we can see there is the mandatory field is not visible here. So we need to, we need to add those code to this here. So just adding that required field indicator. So just actually it check the if the field is required from the, this field is getting from the we have fetch Umbraco form definition from the Umbraco back office. So it will you will get the the details if the field is required or not. So if it is required, then we can add this indicator, and I've styled on uh, here, and then I can let me save this, and here it is, the phone number and gender I've selected as mandatory. So it's away, it's now displayed the indicators. So then uh, in Umbraco forms, you know yeah no now we can, if you want to add page redirection, just let me add the page redirection to here, and but it's I'm selecting home node to the redirect page, submitting it and saving it. But if it is, we need to, we need to do code for that too. So it's not work in a headless scenario. We can see here. So if I, just semi publish it, and if I submit this, it's so. I'm submitting it, then the redirection is not happening. So because we need to add the code for manually for that. So let me add that. Uh, so here I am just creating a variable, a global variable, redirect URL for that, and let me initialize with a empty string. Just taking here I am fetching the the form definition from the back office, and we'll get these all form definition in this variable. So I can assign on reader, this variable. I am assigning, the go to page submit dot page on submit dot path. Here I can get the value. So uh, let me add this to the, here my redirection is happening. So let me comment this part, and if the request is to success, then I'll add the redirection window dot location, window dot location dot href redirect URL. So let me check that it is working. Something went wrong. So let me check what's the page code to on submit is not defined. Here I am just checking console.log this data. Sorry, let me add the debugger. So let me check what's why this debugger is not hitting. Just- okay. So here in the console, go to page on submit root path. Let me copy this and just removing this.
You need to mention data before that, right? Data dot go to page on submit route dot path.
Yeah, and
No,
so that redirect URL when you're assigning that redirect
oh,
URL,
okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah, you can add data.
okay. So let me submit this form. it's not working. Okay, okay. So here on the we can add the window dot uh, location. Just location dot href redirect URL. So let's see what happens here. So I'm selecting uh, these values and motorcycles. So it's also mandatory. So submitting it form. So let me check that too. Somehow the redirection is not working. Let me fix that. This. So yeah, it's the redirection is also happening, and then we need to do some, we can also in Umbraco Forms, Umbraco Forms comes with some built-in fields. It's possible to exclude or remove them if it is necessary. You know, we can show you that on the forms. If we uh, click on this, we can see there are a lot of options. There are a lot of answer types. So Umbraco Forms, we can there's some built-in fields. It's possible to exclude or remove them if it is necessary. There might be some use cases where you have no use for file upload or don't want editors using them. So in that case, just you want to do, you can remove these fields by using, uh, on this. Let me add a folder for composers. This rename it composers. Okay, composers. So on this, let me add a class. I am giving my field, my form field composer as a class name. Just adding it. It's just copying this thing and just I need to inherit this I composer. So here So there is no more password or reCAPTCHA to rich text file upload. These fields no more available on the Umbraco back office. So we can check that. So on the forms, so you can see there is no longer available the you know the password reCAPTCHA v2 rich text file upload. These these properties not available after I exclude these fields from the Umbraco back. So that's all about headless Umbraco forms. We can customize this for our purpose using based on our needs. We can customize this. Uh, yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, Anjumol. That was a very wonderful section and very informative. So, is there anyone who want to ask any questions or something? And now it's your time. And Anjumol, one thing like if you have any reference you all or something to share on the chat, you can please share that so
Yeah,
that it will be helpful for others. Yeah,
yeah, I'll share.
thank you. And any audience, anyone like to any doubts or clarity you needed on any areas? So thank you everybody for joining our Umbraco series, Headless